So if you're new to Adobe Illustrator or coming from something like Photoshop, it can be pretty hard to get started. So in this video, we're going to cover over 11 different tools and features to get you started, not only as quickly as possible, but as pain-free as possible too. And by the end of the video, you will not only have created some shapes, but you'll have created an icon design and a cutesy character as well. It's from a game called Slime Rancher. My son loves it. Don't ask me what it is. There's slimes and all sorts of stuff, but it looks good fun. This video is also sponsored by Squarespace, which is an all-in-one platform to help you set up a site, showcase your work, sell products, or even your time. Bump the desk there. And we'll come back to them a bit later, but now let's hop into Adobe Illustrator. So first up, you can see I have a rectangle, and if I select this with the main selection tool, which is V on the keyboard, what I can do is I can resize this from a corner. I can distort this, or if I hold Shift, it will constrain the width and the height, or I can hold down Alt or Option as well, and this will scale to or from the center. I can also hover over the corner and there we are, rotate, and rotate holding Shift to snap to 45-degree increments. And I did this for years, but there's two other tools we can use that will make this process so much faster. First, we're going to press S on the keyboard for the scale tool. And we can scale this down so I can resize this shape very quickly and easily. And again, I can hold down Shift and I can make it larger or smaller from the center. This can be a little bit jittery, as you can see. So if it doesn't work, press V to go back to the main selection tool, hold down Shift plus Alt or Option, and then scale to or from the center this way. The other tool we're going to use is the Rotate tool, and the shortcut for this is R on the keyboard. And we can, of course, click and drag to rotate. Again, hold Shift to snap to those increments. And the reason we're covering these three tools in particular, the Move tool, which is V, Scale tool S, and Rotate tool R, is because what I can do is I can then resize this, holding Shift. I can rotate it, again, holding Shift. I can scale it up, scale it in, switch with the Rotate tool, and I can resize, move, rotate, and it's definitely worth just practicing this for a few minutes just to get used to these three tools because they will make working with Illustrator so much easier. Something else you can also do is press A for the direct selection tool, and we can also select specific anchor points and then scale these with the scale tool as well. Now let's look at the quickest and easiest way to round off corners. So this one's very easy to do. Simply select a shape with the main selection tool. And with that shape selected, you can see the control points appear on the inside or sometimes the outside. They're these little circles. If they don't appear, try pressing A to switch to the direct selection tool and they should pop up. Now what we can do is click and drag to round off the corners of this shape, but we can also click on individual corner points and hold Shift to select specific ones. And then, for example, I could round off just these top two. There we go. We've made a jelly tot. If you don't know what jelly tots are, they're like these little sweets in England. They're lovely, delicious. I once saw a bin shaped like a jelly tot as well in Spain. Strange. Okay, next up, a delicious shortcut to quickly duplicate shapes and then repeat that duplication as many times as you like. Okay, so this next one is short and sweet and very handy indeed. With the main selection tool, I'm going to grab this star, and this can of course be any object you like. I'm going to drag, holding Alt or Option to create a copy. And if I hold down Shift as well, you can see it snaps this horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. So there we go, let's let go. And then I can press Command or Control D on the keyboard and it will repeat that transform. And you can do this as many times as you like and just repeat this across the entire artboard 100 times if you like, because why not? Now the Reflect tool, and somehow I ignored this for years. So I'll show you my slower way and then we'll do the faster, much better way. Okay, sometimes in Illustrator we end up with half an object, and what I would typically do is do exactly what we just did in the last step, duplicate this horizontally, go over here and flip it, and then hold Shift and drag it in. They will snap together with my smart guides. If they don't, and you don't see smart guides, go to View, and then all the way down to smart guides. Just make sure they're enabled and things will just snap together nicely, which is always helpful. And now I've got the two halves that are hopefully lined up correctly. I can just select everything and press Command or Control J on the keyboard to join everything together. And that is the really slow way. So let's undo that. We'll get rid of that half. And instead, I'm going to select this half a heart. Press O on the keyboard for the reflect tool, and then hold Alt or Option and click on the rightmost point. And we can't see anything, so let's just move this window out the way. There we go. And then try again. And in this example, I'm going to reflect along the vertical axes, and I'm not going to click OK because it will just reflect that. Instead, I'm going to click Copy. And there we go, it's reflected perfectly in position, so I don't need to manually move this. And again, I can just select everything and join it together. And I didn't do that for years, and yeah, it took a bit of getting used to, but I got there and it's much faster. Now again, coming back to rounded corners, this is probably the second most valuable technique in this video. So rather than trying to manually draw curves with something like the pen tool, this is how to get perfectly smooth curves with no skill required. Hence why I use this technique all the time. And what I'm going to do is first of all, select these two bottom shapes. And I'm going to go over to the Pathfinder panel here and select this option, Unite. This will combine these shapes together, and we'll be using this technique a bit later in the video. There we go, perfect. Now I can press A to go to the direct selection tool, deselect everything, and then I'm going to click on this point here and this point here. And you can use the arrow keys to move individual anchor points, or we can hold Shift to move in slightly larger increments. So there we go, that looks good. And now what I'm going to do is use the technique we looked at earlier for rounding off corners. You'll love this, this is great. Select it with the main selection tool, press A, and then I'm going to go and grab this one. Hold Shift, click on this one, and this one. Now, they're all selected. Let's round off. The red line means you cannot round it anymore. And I'll do the bottom as well. 1 and 2, I'll round that off as well. And there we go. That is infinitely more precise than using any drawing tool in Illustrator. And then up here, maybe I'll select these top two, unite those together as well. Ba-ding, there we go. And I could round off some of the corners here. Let's just do it nice and quick. And I think I will actually use the pen tool. Let's just press P to get that one up. And down here, you can see my anchor points become highlighted. I'm going to click and draw a line. We'll hold Shift to make it horizontal. Bring it there. And if we select this, I can round it off from the stroke panel. Let's change that cap type to round, just so everything kind of fits together from a stylistic point of view. And I'm also going to just round off the top. And the great thing with rounding off these corners is everything is still fully editable. So we have a lot more flexibility when designing. There we go, much better. Now, if you do want to draw shapes in Illustrator, but you don't want to use the pen tool, which is totally understandable, then this tool and some very specific settings, well, this is the next best thing. Right, so now we're going to add a bit more detail to this eyedropper pipette-like thing. First of all, I'm going to grab this, press R for the rotate tool, hold Shift and rotate this 45 degrees, and we're going to add a little bit of fluidy liquid something or other at the bottom of this pipette. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to grab the pencil tool, and it's hiding under the shaper tool. There you are, I see, you cheeky sausage. There we go. And if we double click the pencil tool, we get access to more options. Now, first of all, I'm just going to grab this slider for the fidelity, and I'll drag this to the left. You'll see what this does in a minute. And also make sure that Keep Selected and Edit Selected paths are both checked because, well, I'll show you in a minute as well. These are both incredibly useful features. So let's click OK. And I'm going to zoom in a bit more. There we go. And now I'm going to try and draw a curved line representing some liquid. So let's just draw a line with my really not so steady hand. Whoa, there we go. And you can see that is not particularly smooth, very jaggedy, and just pretty awful all around, really. And what we can try and do is we could try and fix this by going to, where are we going? We're going up to Object, down to Path. And one of the more recent features added to Illustrator is the Smooth feature. And I can grab this slider here and crank this up, and you can see it fixes my horrible jaggedy line and makes it pretty smooth. I do love this, and it's very useful, but there's a better way we can avoid this altogether. So let's delete it, press N to select the pencil tool, and we'll double click on the pencil tool. And now we're going to crank the fidelity all the way up to smooth. There we go. Now watch what happens when I try and draw this again. In fact, I'll make it especially jaggedy. There we go. Look at my very unsteady hand. Very shaky, but watch what Illustrator does. That was not meant to happen. Okay, I'll try that again and make it less intentionally jaggedy. There we go. I'm actually trying now. There you go. Perfectly smooth. And if you do get any little bits like this, we can just zoom in, grab that direct selection tool. And where are you? There's that point. And we can just pull that around. And of course, the dimensions are covering exactly what I want to see, which is just really helpful. There we go. That'll do for now. And this is great because sometimes in Illustrator, you want to draw more organic shapes that feel a bit less precise. Okay, so we've created an icon design with a very linear style, but how do we easily add color to all of the different segments? Okay, so I've refined that dastardly curve a little bit more, and I have a nice icon design, but I want to add some color. But at the moment, if I try and add some color to this by selecting everything, you'll see what happens. Let's just pick an orange. And the problem is, how do I add color to this bit down here? Because if I move it, well, it's just a combination of shapes and lines, and it can get pretty difficult. Let's undo that and put this back together. And the way to do this is to select everything. And we're going to grab the live paint bucket, and it's usually hidden under the shape builder tool. And if I hover over this, you can see it says, click to make a live paint group. Click. So this is now a live paint group. And I can go up to the swatches panel and let's pick a color for the top. There we go, a nice yellow. I'm going to pick this color here for the liquid. Yes, we'll select white, I think, for the actual glass bit here. So yes, that is a very quick and easy way to add color in Illustrator to objects. And I'm actually just going to add a background as well. We're going to finish this off and we're going to Shift X to swap the fill and the stroke. That's also another very useful shortcut. Let's resize that to fit the artboard. Send it to the back so we can actually see things. Oh, that looks kind of cool, but not what we're going for. And I'm going to select a beige or like a light creamy color. Yeah, there we go. That's the one. That is the one. Now, before we move on to the next one, as I mentioned, this video is sponsored by Squarespace, which is a platform that is perfect for creatives, entrepreneurs, and business owners because Squarespace has all the tools you'll need in one place. Plus, as well as quickly setting up an absolute banger of a website where you can sell physical or digital products through an online store, you can take payments through Apple Pay and PayPal as well, which is just convenient for everyone. There's also plenty of website templates that are fully responsive, so you don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to work on mobile. And probably my favorite feature, no, definitely my favorite feature is Squarespace Blueprint and SEO tools. And this is like a guided design system that enables you to create a professional looking site that is completely unique and built from the ground up, whilst also being optimized for SEO, which is super important. So if you're interested, check out squarespace.com to get started with a free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Dansky to save 10% off your first website or domain. Okay, back to the video. Right, let's switch things up now and create a character from a game my son absolutely loves. The game is called Slime Rancher, and you have like a gun and you have to collect things called slimes and then breed them or something, and you give them hats and clothes, and you have to collect plorts. I mean, what on earth is a plort? I don't know. Who came up with that? I mean, plorts, what a strange word. Anyway, if you're new to Illustrator, knowing how to combine shapes together and knock one shape out of another is absolutely essential. And we can do this with the Pathfinder options. So here I have what will become a cutesy character. We have circles and ellipses, very easy to set up. But what I'm going to do first of all is select the circle, the main body, press Command or Control C to copy, Command or Control F to paste in front. Let's give this a different color. We'll go to the swatches panel and just use one of their grays. There we go. And then I'm going to press S for the scale tool, click that bottommost point, and then scale down holding Shift. And we'll just kind of inset that a little bit and then move it up holding Shift as well. Or you can use the arrow keys, whatever works for you. Now I'm going to copy and paste in front again. I'm going to press I for the eyedropper tool and sample this same dark charcoal color. Very nice, a nice dark gray. And I'm going to scale this down, holding Alt or Option and Shift. and move this down. This will become his mouth. Now at the moment it's a little bit large, round and circular. So what I'm going to do is again, copy, paste in front. I'll give this shape a different color so you can see what I'm doing. So let's go with pink, and I'm going to just move this up. And I'm going to use this pink to knock out the, no wait, what am I saying? I'm struggling, guys. I'm going to knock out the pink shape from the gray shape. There's a lot of gray shapes, Dan. I'm going to knock out the, anyway, I'll just show you. I'll just show you, it'll be easier. So if I just swap the fill and the stroke with Shift X, I can then use this to adjust the position. There we go, that's good. We'll put it back. And if I select the pink circle and the very dark gray big circle, again, I can go to the Pathfinder panel and select the next option along, which is minus front, or you can think of this as subtract, and it will subtract the shape on top from the shape underneath. Hey, there we go. We have a rather cutesy mouse. I like that. A mouse? No, mouth. Damn, I really can't speak today. So there we go. We have a really cutesy mouth. And again, of course, I can select this, press A. We could round this off and go full jelly bean, or we could just round it a little bit. It's entirely up to you. And the last thing I'm going to do is with the direct selection tool, drag over these top two anchor points for both circles and use the arrow keys to just nudge that up and kind of distort him just so he isn't perfectly circular. Now, whereas the icon we did before had solid colors and was arguably a little bit flat, something else we can use to introduce a bit more dimension and personality is gradients. So we have the character, and I've also defined a bunch of swatches at the top. We've got some dark colors, medium colors, and a light pink as well. And what I'm going to do is select all of these, and from the swatches panel, from the menu icon in the top corner, I can go add selected colors, and all of these will be added as global swatches to the swatches panel, which is incredibly helpful. So let's start adding a bit of color. What I'm going to do is we'll select that. Eyedropper tool is probably the quickest way to do this. So let's just throw in a bit of color, and then we use the dark color for the eyes and the mouth, and then we have that one specific color on the left for the tongue. And that's fine. That's not a bad start, but we want to add some gradients. So let's select this, and we've got the gradient tool over here. And I've also got my gradient panel docked over here on the right hand side. If you don't see it over here, just go to Window, and you'll find it down there in that big old list. And what I can do with this is I can click and drag on the shape. That does nothing. Single click. No, that does nothing either. Why is my gradient tool not working? Illustrator, you have failed me. You have failed me for the last time. Right, if it doesn't work, just go over to the gradient panel and click on the gradient slider, and it will force it to add a gradient. There we go. You will add the gradient. Ugh, I just can't get the help these days. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag. There we go. So if I click and drag once I've applied the gradient, you can see that it works now, which is great. And I can double click on either of the swatches on the gradient slider, jump over to swatches, and I've got my lovely suite of colors right here. So let's go for light pink in the top right. And then if I double click this one down here, we'll go for delicious medium pink. Oof, that is nice. That is nice. And we can, of course, adjust this so we can go, whoa, a bit more of that there. And I'm going to select the outer shape as well. I for the eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to sample that gradient because I'm feeling rather lazy. And if I press G for the gradient tool, again, I can, yep, it works now, fantastic. What I can do is I can kind of go and fine tune this a little bit more. And maybe for this bottom one, I'll pick the slightly darker color. And you can actually move the gradient slider off the design as well. So we could do that and then lengthen it from this side, and you really can spend all day doing this. And you can see it just adds a little bit more life and personality into the character. So let's just refine this gradient a minute. And I'll leave it there because I will spend all day on it. Something else we can also do is grab the ellipse tool, and we'll draw an ellipse. And I'm going to drag this pink off the gradient slider, and we're just going to go white at either end. There we go. Oh no, white doesn't work for some reason sometimes. If you get that problem, just switch over to color and then you can create white this way. There we go. You won't stop me, Illustrator. I will create white. But something else we can also do is adjust the opacity. So let's drop that down to 0. And you can see on one side it goes completely to transparency. Let's move that all the way to the left. And then we'll bring this one down as well. Let's go for 70%. And then I can go in and fine tune the opacity for each color, each of the whites, or I can just go over here and do the opacity for the entire thing. So I could drop it down to 70% or even less, and it will just do it to the entire shape. Okay, so everything looks great, but our slime character, well, he's a bit geometrically precise, which I mean, I'm not a slime specialist, but I think we need to make him look a bit more organic in shape, and this will help add a bit more personality. And the tool we're going to be using isn't really a beginner tool, but it's perfect for this situation, so I just had to show you. So this little fella is looking really good so far, but at the moment, everything is just perfectly geometric, which sometimes is fine, but this fella's a slime. He is a slime and he needs a little bit of gooiness and a more organic shape. So what I'm going to do is I'll just move this one over here. There we go. We'll call you Bill, and then we'll duplicate that using that handy keyboard shortcut, and we'll call this one Ben, of course. Not quite the flower pot men though, if you don't get that reference. If you're thinking, who is this guy talking about Bill and Ben in the flower pot men? I'm sorry. I'll just stop. Anyway, I can right click and we'll group this one together on the right. And then what I'm going to do is go all the way over here, and you'll find this feature under the free transform tool. And that is the puppet warp tool. And this is a lot of fun. Now you can see it's added a bunch of pins already. We can select these and delete them. So I'm just going to delete these and add my own from the beginning. And you can see it's kind of added a geometric mesh. So let's click again. We'll add one here and here, maybe one here and one here. And I'm just going to use this to just pull this little fella out of shape. So you can see we can really start to play around with not just the overall shape, but the expressions as well. It just adds a little bit more character. So let's bring that left side up. Hey, there we go. Bring out that smile. Beautiful. And we can also select these and click on the dashed circle around the edge to rotate them. I don't think that's going to really work here. No, not quite. Hey. And there you go. You can see the difference between the one on the left and the one on the right. Perfectly geometric on the left, much more personality on the right. So yeah, we have the slime and I've got the heart from earlier on. So let's just bring that into play. Shift X to swap the fill and stroke. I for the eyedropper tool. I'm going to sample that tasty gradient. G for the gradient tool. And I'm going to run that up there. That's where my light source is, the top right corner. And neither is right or wrong. One is just more geometrically precise and the other one has a bit more personality and a slightly more organic shape. And lastly, a must-know feature for graphic designers in particular, and that is how to put an image inside a shape. So here you can see I have an image. This can be a vector graphic like this, or this could be a photo you've imported, a JPEG or a PNG, anything you like. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and grab the ellipse tool. But you can, of course, draw a shape with the pencil tool, the pen tool. This can be done with any shape in Illustrator. I'm going to click and drag, holding Shift, make a lovely circle. And then with the circle on top, I'm going to select both objects, go to Object, all the way down to the bottom. And we're going to go to Clipping Mask and select Make. And if you do want to undo this, you've got Release there as well. But I'm feeling pretty confident. Let's make that. And you can see it crops the image inside the circle. Now we can actually move this around, which is fantastic, but we can also double click to go inside this clipping mask group. And now I can select the original image and I can adjust the crop and I can resize this as I would with any other image. So we still have a lot of flexibility and you can get out by single clicking on the arrow at the top left corner. You can see it says back one level, but the quickest way is just to double click anywhere on the workspace and you just immediately back outside. So double click to go in, double click to come out. And then what I'm going to do is paste in our lovely little character. There he is. And we can now position him in the environment. Let's scale him down. And the last thing I'm going to do is just select the character and make sure that everything is ungrouped. I might need to ungroup a few times. And I'm going to select the outermost shape, go over to the stroke, and I'm going to set this to white. There we go. And from the stroke panel, I'm just going to thicken up the stroke weight. And if I select the word stroke, I can select this option here, and this will align the stroke to the outside, so it's not interfering or encroaching on the design. Right, beautiful people, that is me done. That is the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something new. Of course, a big thank you to Squarespace and to you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.